A Russian T-54 55th tank filled with explosives and 70 years old has been destroyed by Ukrainian troops, who are now approaching Ukrainian trenches to blow them up. Russians loaded the antiquated tank with lots of explosives and remotely drove them at Ukrainian channels. A Ukrainian soldier uses an anti-tank weapon to hit the suicide tank, which slows down after hitting a mine and explodes in a huge fireball. The pro-Russian channel Romanov asserted that Russian troops attempted to blow up Ukrainian soldiers by filling the T-54 tank from the Soviet era with 6 tons of explosives. The unconfirmed claims made by Russian media that the remote-controlled explosive device was responsible for a number of deaths in Ukraine. The suicide tank slows down after it hits a mine, and the defenders try to repel it. The tank is destroyed when a rocket fired by a Ukrainian soldier hits it. Even though the tank was stopped about 200 feet away from the Ukrainians, it is likely that some soldiers were killed by the huge pressure wave from the explosion. Despite the fact that this is the first time the explosion has been captured on camera, Moscow has used the strategy at least twice before. Romanov, a Russian propaganda channel, says that troops tried to blow up Ukrainian soldiers by filling the tank with 6 tons of explosives. The Russian Defense Ministry stated on Saturday that its soldiers had packed an MTLB with explosives and driven it at Kiev forces, claiming to have used this potentially devastating method of destruction at least once previously. Moscow claimed that it cost a lot of money, but this is not true. They uploaded video of soldiers loading the tank with explosives before firing it at Ukrainian soldiers. Volodymyr Zelensky paused his countermeasures in order to avoid significant losses after Russian helicopters assisted in the destruction of dozens of Western armored vehicles. This coincides with the experiment of kamikaze drones and suicide tanks. Ukraine appears to be facing significant resistance in their struggle to liberate Russian-occupied land that has been snatched from them over a 16-month invasion, as they enter a second week of demanding counterattacks. The Russians now enjoy air supremacy thanks to a detachment of 20 K-52 attack helicopters. Western armored vehicles, including 16 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles and 5 Leopard tanks, have been depicted in propaganda photographs. 3 US and German-supplied mine-clearing tanks have also been shown damaged and abandoned. British intelligence says that Bakhmut in the southeastern Zaporizhzhia province and the eastern Donetsk province in Ukraine have seen the most recent fighting. The efforts of Ukraine, which began its counteroffensive on June 4, have resulted in a variety of responses. Their first village gain in nearly a week, according to reports, was the capture of Piatikatki on Sunday in the southern Zaporizhzhia region. As Ukraine liberated 7 settlements, the counteroffensive appeared to be off to a good start. However, it has now emerged that generals have halted advances in recent days to recuperate and find a way to punch through Russian territory without suffering a lot of casualties. The setback occurs as a British Challenger 2 tank was first observed on the front line in a telegram video. Britain provided a squadron of 14 Challenger 2 tanks with a 120mm rifle gun and a 7.62mm machine gun, as the West continues to assist Ukraine in its fight against Putin's army. The £5 million Challenger 2 has a greater range and accuracy than the Kremlin's equivalent and is designed to attack other tanks. However, Russia boasts that it has destroyed US Bradley vehicles and German Leopard tanks. In an effort to motivate his soldiers to continue fighting, Putin's defense ministry announced on Friday that troops who destroyed Western tanks utilized by Ukraine will receive bonus payments. Moscow is thwarting several counterattacks with its dense minefields and superior air power, while taking advantage of Kyiv's weak air defenses and destroying sophisticated Western artillery. Russia had increased the number of its attack helicopters in occupied Berdyansk, 60 miles behind the front line, according to the UK Ministry of Defense yesterday. As Moscow beefs up its defenses, Britain claimed that more than 20 additional helicopters have been deployed there. On Twitter, the Ministry of Defense stated, "It is likely that Russia has gained a temporary advantage in southern Ukraine, in the ongoing battle between aviation measures and countermeasures. According to pro-Russian internet influencers, footage of Russian Ka-52 Alligators helicopters allegedly destroying Western tanks at the junction of Zaporozhye and the DPR Yuzhno-Donetsk/Frometsky direction was released yesterday. Despite the Ministry of Defense's assertion that Russian losses are likely at their highest level since March, Russian bloggers have consistently gloated over images of burned-out Western tanks. It stated that Russian losses are likely the highest since the peak of the battle for Bakhmut in March, with high casualties on both sides. Vladimir Rogozin, an official appointed by the Kremlin, said that Ukraine's capture of Piatikatki yesterday was their first action on the Zaporizhzhia front since launching its counterattack. Moscow later claimed that it had not been taken back. Past victories have come further east, on the western edge of the Donetsk locale, where Ukraine guaranteed to have recovered a small bunch of towns. Before recapturing Piatikatki, Rogozin stated that Kyiv had sustained significant casualties in waves of attacks. He stated that fighters from the Ukrainian armed forces have increased their reserves and established a foothold in Piatikatki. On Sunday, the Defense Ministry of Russia stated that it had stopped 3 sections of the front line in the Zaporizhzhia region from being attacked by Ukrainian counterattacks. In the meantime, in a regular update on Sunday morning, the Ukrainian military stated that Russia had launched 51 attacks from multiple rocket launchers, 43 airstrikes, and 4 missile strikes in the previous 24 hours. The General Staff statement said that Russia continued to focus on offensive operations in the industrial east of Ukraine, targeting Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Marinka, and Lyman in the country's Donetsk province. There were 26 combat clashes. According to Pavlo Kirilenko, governor of the Donetsk region, 2 civilians have died and been wounded in the past day. According to officials in Ukraine, Russian forces had also carried out airstrikes in other parts of the country's south and east. According to Oleksandr Prokudin, regional governor, Russia's attacks in Kherson province resulted in the deaths of 1 civilian and the injuries of 4 others. According to Yuri Malashko, the governor of the Zaporizhzhia regional government, 1 person was injured in Russian attacks that targeted 20 settlements in the province. A spokesperson for the regional government in the southwestern Odessa province, Serbiy Brachek, stated that Ukrainian forces destroyed a very significant ammunition depot close to the Russian-occupied port city of Henichesk in the nearby Kherson province. In a video message that was uploaded to Mr. Brachek's Telegram channel on Sunday, he stated, "Our armed forces dealt a good blow in the morning. Ukraine's counteroffensive to dislodge Kremlin forces from occupied areas, which uses Western-supplied advanced weapons in attacks along the 600-mile, 1,000-kilometer front line, could last a long time," according to Western analysts and military officials. In recent days, a group of African leaders went on what they called a peace mission to both Russia and Ukraine in an effort to help bring an end to the nearly 16-month-old conflict. However, the visit ended on Saturday with no immediate signs of progress. In the meantime, the death toll from flooding following the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam rose to 16 in territory held by Ukraine on Saturday, while 29 people perished in Moscow-controlled territory, according to Russian officials. Towns in the Kherson region, a warfront region, were devastated by massive flooding caused by the dam's destruction on June 6. The breach is allegedly caused by Russia and Ukraine. Meanwhile, the head of the private army, Yevgeny Prigozhin, announced on Sunday that 32,000 former prisoners had returned home following the termination of their contracts in Ukraine, as the deadline for all Russian volunteer formations to sign contracts with Russia's defense ministry approaches. The move is widely regarded as an attempt to target Russia's Wagner mercenary group. Recruiting fighters, Prigozhin visited Russian prisons and promised pardons if they made it through Wagner's half-year tour of frontline duty. He stated in an interview last month that he had recruited 50,000 inmates, of whom approximately 10,000 were killed in Bakhmut.